Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a wonderful weekend so far. It is Sunday when I'm filming this video, so we're going to have a little bit of fun today and go over the top 13 most complimented fragrances from the House of Bond number 9. I think it was 13, but we'll get through that. So go ahead, it's going to be a pretty long video. Grab a beverage of your choice. I'm going with an IPA, even though I'm more of a bourbon single malt scotch guy, and we'll go ahead and get it started. Now keep in mind, I have nearly 40 Bond number 9 fragrances, and technically this is not even my own list. These are the most complimented fragrances from my entire collection, and these beat out some very popular fragrances: Centerpiece for Him, Lafayette Street, New York Nights, Greenwich Village. Unfortunately, some of these fragrances that did beat them out are a lot more expensive, which is why you see so many from the Dubai series up here, but well worth the money in my opinion. And these fragrances, obviously, depending on your skin chemistry and what you have in your collection, some of your most complimented Bond number 9s are going to be completely different than what's on this list, or some of them the exact same. So we'll go through it as always, kind of mixed them up for you guys. I don't want to give away the entire order, that wouldn't be much fun. But number 13, Wall Street. Women seem to love this fragrance, man. I don't know what it is about it. It's one of the fragrances that was the original launches from Bond number 9, and it's, to me, always going to be one of my favorites, partially from nostalgia. It aged well. This is nearly a 20-year-old bottle. I have a video coming soon comparing one of my friend's newer bottles of Wall Street to this one, just to compare a fresh batch and a bottle that has been half full for about 20 years and aged. And to me, it's aged very well. It's got a lot of sea kale, green, ambergris notes. Ambergris in this fragrance is obviously batch dependent. Ambergris is a natural product, and I've heard some people say that their Wall Street, it smells like wet dog, or super fishy or marine-like. This is definitely very marine, but thankfully it is not wet dog or fishy. I remember, I think it was Bowtie Fragrance Guy that had a 50 ml Wall Street, hated it, bought a newer one of the 100 ml just because he had tried it somewhere else and really liked it. So this is one of the few Bond number 9 fragrances that seems to be batch dependent, probably because of the high amount of ambergris in the fragrance. But yeah, Wall Street, I'm going to go number 13 there for Wall Street. Beautiful fragrance if you're looking for something green, masculine, marine, and of course it is supposed to smell like currency. So number 12 on the list. This is going to be a lot higher up for some people. Still gets me a lot of compliments, but Bleeker Street, guys. Caramel, blueberries, fresh cut grass, nice green note. Definitely a fresh fragrance, but it's not overly fresh. It's still very interesting. A lot of density, longevity. It's got some wood notes in there. Suede, I believe, is one of the notes in there. A little bit of caramel, but it doesn't have that overdose of maltol that you find in like New York Nights, Greenwich Village, and Tribeca, which I personally do not really love. I can see why other people might like them, but I'm not a huge fan of fragrances that have an overdose of that in there. So number 12 on the list is Bleeker Street. That'd be funny if we get through all these and it's not actually 13. So another fragrance. Now this is from the Dubai series. This is Black Sapphire. You could probably go 11 on this one and maybe interchange it with some of the next ones on there because it's very close for these next ones. This is a very unique fragrance, and it's also very new to me, so I expect it to move up the list the more I wear it. But every time I wear this, somebody seems to say something, and it kind of struck me off guard because the first time that I tried this fragrance, it was very overwhelming, very powerful, a lot of rose, a lot of florals, extremely strong, saffron, beeswax, oud, incense. I mean, my goodness, it is a very strong projecting fragrance. Beautiful saffron note in there as well. Definitely one of those fragrances where it seems to smell better in the air instead of smelling it up close to skin, especially right after you apply it. I was joking around with one of my subscribers because he said he didn't think he could pull it off. I was like, yeah, man, you just spray it and then just wait like an hour before you see anybody. Because that's almost the time you need. That's almost how strong it is to get the fragrance to actually settle down. But the dry down on Black Sapphire is beautiful. The sillage and the way it fills a room up is extremely beautiful, and it seems to go, again, much better in the air after it dries down than is, you know, when you first spray the fragrance on skin. It's just very, very strong, very overwhelming, and certainly one of those fragrances that you have to appreciate fragrances from that category, or you're just not going to enjoy it. But I do know that in the air, people just seem to absolutely love those fragrances. So Really good stuff there, but just also very, very strong fragrance. So you've got to be careful with the trigger on that. So we'll get as many of these in here as we can. So that was number, 11 on the list, 13, 12, 11. Now we'll go number 10. Going to be a kind of a tough call between some of these next up, because now we're getting into like what would almost be top 10 most complimented. But if I had to say, I'd probably say Coney Island would be my next most complimented fragrance from them. Gourmand, citrus, fresh, wood, and musk. It's very playful in the opening. It's one of those fragrances that is unique, but it's also very playful. Chocolate, caramel, cinnamon, guava, margarita mix. So it's really unique. One thing with this fragrance is it dries down very serious. You know, the musk, the woods on Coney Island, it really gives itself to a complemented, oriented DNA. And it's one of those fragrances that I can't really describe in terms of comparing it to another fragrance, because it really doesn't. And it's going to be one of those to where you either kind of love it or hate it. But I know just wearing this one personally, even though I do like it, other people seem to love the fragrance on me. So that's always good reassurance for certain things on this list. You know, you want to enjoy a fragrance personally, but it is always nice when people compliment a fragrance and enjoy it on you as well. So now one of the next ones on my list is actually going to be Dubai Jade. Dubai Jade. Unbelievably good fragrance. Raspberry, cumin, rose, violet leaf. So it's green, fresh, floral, a little bit fruity. Very interesting dry down. It almost gets heavier as it dries down. It goes to like the birch tar and the incense in here. You guys just have to try this. This for me is like a perfect spring or summer fragrance. Very highly complimented on the list. It's one of those fragrances that, as well as being something that I love wearing, it's another fragrance that it's a little bit mysterious. Looking at the base notes, looking at some of the other notes in the fragrance, I kind of thought it would be heavier. And now that I've tried the fragrance personally, I can't really imagine it any other way. You know, I think it's just perfect the way it is. I think it would have been maybe too overdone and maybe too much representing something like a black sapphire or a Dubai emerald if they went heavier on those base notes. So I'm glad they kept it fresh, and it does have very good longevity and projection, even though it stays a little bit closer to skin after 6 hours. So Dubai Jade, absolutely wonderful stuff. That's going to be, what, number 9 on our list? Yeah, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. So number 8 on the list, this one's pretty easy for me, especially with all these that we got coming up here. This is going to be Hamtons. Hamtons is really, really beautiful fragrance. You can see the dent in the bottle. This one's almost 20 years old. It is a fragrance that has aged actually very well for a fragrance that structurally I didn't think was going to do that. Probably just the conditions that I keep it in, very cool conditions. Light can't get to it, but it's got that lime blossom, kind of fresh woods, floral, almost like a rain note to it. I always say Hamptons, it really reminds me of when you're on the beach, it's really hot out, and then a storm rolls in, it cools off real quick, and it splashes rain down on that hot pavement, on that hot asphalt, and you get that kind of smell from the rain evaporating off the asphalt. This does kind of have that quality to it, which really makes it unique to me and brings back a lot of childhood memories of, you know, being at the beach. But overall, as this list is, it's one of the fragrances that from the entire Bond No. 9 lineup that I own, it's definitely one of my most complimented. Just absolutely gorgeous stuff there. So I believe that's number 8 there. We'll get to it at the end and see what it is. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, one of those. Yeah, so number 8. Now we got a couple here that it's really tough to choose some of these next ones, because you're not only getting in to some of the most complimented fragrances from my collection. Most of these are almost a dead draw in terms of how much compliments they get. Some are more sincere than others. You know, some people, they really want to know the name of the fragrance, who makes it, how much it costs. Others just get a lot more compliments than certain other fragrances in general because of how the DNA works. But number 7 on my list would have to be Amethyst. Huge projection and sillage. Unbelievable longevity. Tonka bean, tobacco, rose, patchouli, ambroxan. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about this one other than it is amazing. To me, tropical vibe, like a kind of like a beach cocktail without being boozy, like a non-alcoholic beach cocktail perhaps. Somebody smoking a really high quality but light cigar, very far off in the distance to where you just get a little puff and a little hint of that tobacco, even though it is very good tobacco quality in this fragrance. I would not describe it as a tobacco fragrance, nothing like Boadicea Tobacco Sapphire or Amouage Royal Tobacco, nothing of that sort, but still very good usage of that material. And it is one of those fragrances that is just absolutely dynamite, and probably one of the longest lasting and best projecting from the entire house. So, man, it's going to get tougher and tougher as we continue to go. So, all these are extremely highly complimented. I would say number 6 on the list is going to be New Haarlem. Cult following from this, pancakes and coffee. That's really what the fragrance is. Dries down to a lot more woods and lavender, so it does get a lot of development and complexity. If you guys remember this bottle when I first got it, it was absolutely clear. I'm sure it's showing through on camera, but this bottle is actually getting some nice coloration in there now, starting to get back to the colors that I remember from the old original batches that I had that were a couple years old. I've gone through like 2 bottles, I believe it was, of the older batches, and then they ran out of it. The newer batches are just as good, if not better, than the old ones. Nothing that difficult to recreate in this fragrance in terms of raw materials. So very good job on Bond number 9 for that, because it is just an incredible company, and they did a really good job at re-releasing the ones as close as they possibly could to the original. So guys, next up, again, it's just going to get tougher and tougher and tougher. So for me, Dubai Citrine, I guess this would be number 5 on the list. Man, red berries, fir balsam, seaweed, florals, oak moss in the base, musk. I mean, oh my gosh, guys. This could easily be number 2 or 3 or even 1 possibly. I mean, again, with these next ones coming up, it is just so difficult because they all get so many compliments, and a lot of them are genuine compliments. But Dubai Citrine, number 5, absolutely incredible fragrance. One of my personal favorites from the house, especially for spring or summertime. So we'll keep this thing rolling. Number 4, Bond number 9 signature scent. Tonka bean, rose, oud, and musk. It smells like there's some other woods and things like that mixed in here. But that is really what you get in this fragrance. It is complexity through simplicity. Very, very heavy on the musk and the woods note and oud. A little bit of rose and tonka bean to blend it in there. It is heavy on the tonka as well, but I feel like it's just to make sure that the musk and the woods and the oud don't become too overbearing. So it does have a little bit of a nice sweetness in there, but completely different use of tonka bean than you find in something like New Haarlem. So beautiful stuff. One of the most luxurious smelling fragrances in the entire lineup of Bond number 9, in my opinion. Absolutely dynamite. So that would be number 4 on the list. Now number 3, Riverside Drive. Unbelievable stuff, guys. This has been one of my favorite and kind of like a signature scent of mine since it first came out, so that I still have the original batch. That's a little bit below halfway. I kind of wear it randomly. I'm going to start wearing it more. I haven't worn it in a while, just to kind of compare how this is aging compared to my 20-year-old bottle. New one is really, really good. A lot fresher pineapple and basil notes because those top notes are a little bit more volatile. You don't really smell it as much in my 20-year-old bottle, even though you get a little bit more of an aged version of that. It's not as fresh, acidic, and citrus, even though it does have plenty of pineapple and basil and all the top notes left over. I think in any fragrance, no matter how it ages, at least in my experience, just like when you wear a fragrance, it's the top notes that go off first because they are the most volatile. So again, wonderful job, Bond number 9, recreating Riverside Drive, because they just did a spectacular job with that and New Haarlem to make them as close as they possibly could to the original. So number 2, most complimented from the house. These 2 probably are not much of a surprise, and a lot of people consider these like kind of like the crown jewel of the Dubai series, and it's hard to argue with that because they are both fantastic. This is Bond number 9, Dubai Indigo. Exotic. It's the first word that comes to mind when I smell this is exotic, quality. It's a blue fragrance without being a traditional blue fragrance. You don't find the lemon, the pineapple, bergamot, or even marine notes in here really. They achieve it through fruits, lychee and peach. You got white musk, agar wood, and oak moss in here too. I think you got some orange blossoms as the florals, and you have some other florals in here, but really what it comes down to in this fragrance for me, the exotic fruity opening, a little bit of florals to balance it out, but really makes this fragrance stand out and gives it a ton of longevity and projection is the white musk, the agar wood, and the oak moss. Makes it a lot more masculine, Again, fruit notes at the top, very good job of them making something that still kind of fits in that blue category, that blue DNA, while also making it very luxurious, exotic, and something that in the air, people aren't going to get confused with something like an Aqua de Jo or a Bleu de Chanel or something like that. In my opinion, a lot better, as it should be for the retail price that they chose for that. $600 retail for all the Dubai series. And yeah, that's an incredible one, but it is expensive. Just like the number one on my list is Dubai Gold. I know a lot of subscribers I suggested this to have bought it and really, really love it. Just like Signature Scent, but even taken to a whole new level in terms of the luxurious type of smell to it. Very musk forward, wood, spice, sweetness, a little bit of booziness here. You get some ginger and brandy notes with, I believe it's bitter orange or blood orange. You also got some saffron in here. I think 3 or 4 different types of wood and a beautiful musk and patchouli dry down. This is absolutely not just one of my most complimented and one of my personal favorite fragrances from the entire house of Bond number 9. But despite all the expensive stuff I have, certain Attars I've tried, all the Boadicea that I had that you guys see, the Raja Parfums, the Amouage Library series and extracts, this is still one of my personal favorites and also most complimented in my entire collection, regardless of fragrance houses. And that says a lot, considering I do have quite a few things in my collection. Obviously, there's a lot of people out there with much larger collections than myself, but I like to think that mine is very, very high quality, not really as high in quantity as some other people's, but I think I'm doing pretty good in terms of the Dubai series. I got all those registered now. I mean, I have, I think, 11 came in the original Dubai series. And then you have, Emerald, Blue, Black, and Ruby, which are the special edition Swarovski crystal ones. And there may be 1 or 2 more that I'm missing. But for the standard Dubai lineup, I actually have all of them now that I got Emerald in. So I will be doing a separate video on just the Dubai series a little bit later. But for this video here, having these out on the table, it really kind of gets a good grasp of, even though I got into a lot of other fragrance houses, it comes back to I'm still buying Bond number 9. And that's, for me, how they perform on my skin, the way the house operates as a business, the longevity. And keep in mind, and I know other fragrance reviewers have said this as well, but Bond number 9, to my knowledge, they don't even send samples to larger reviewers to review. If you want Bond number 9 stuff, you have to buy it. So if you see somebody reviewing it, they legitimately like Bond number 9. That's really what it comes down to. They're not getting bottles for free. They're not getting paid promotions or free samples to say that. So the fact that my collection of Bond number 9 continues to grow, even after getting to houses like Argos, Boadicea, Raja Parfums, Ortho Parisi, Amouage, Xerjoff, all these other houses, I'm still buying Bond number 9 because that's how good they are, at least to me, on my skin and how they project. So Kevin Samuels definitely was not wrong. Bond number 9 is a secret weapon house, and despite some of the hate that it gets on the internet, I haven't found anything from me that would suggest that personally, and it's one of the houses that I'm going to continue to buy from just because I get so many compliments on the fragrances, and I personally enjoy them. They're very long lasting on my skin. I know Larisse has a really nice background in Lancome, doing skin and beauty products before even getting into fragrances and working with Creed. So she definitely has the business rapport to run such a successful company. And for me, Bond number 9 definitely was one of my entrances into niche fragrances in general. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. A lot of good fragrances on the table here. And again, not really my list, more of a list of just what people enjoy from this house the most on my skin. And some of these were not a surprise, others were kind of a surprise. So it's always interesting, and this list will always change year from year depending on what situations I wear them in, what climate I wear them in, how often I wear them. So yeah, this list is always going to be changing, so just be on the updates here on the channel, because I'm sure there's going to be a new one of these videos every 8 months to a year or something like that. So enjoyed doing this with you guys. Have a great weekend, stay safe out there, and I'll see y'all soon on the channel.